All right, let's go back to our agenda, the table items, number 1.
Okay, that's Gwendover's. You want to talk on that first?
Well, yeah, yes. First thing I would say on it is we only have 4 members tonight, and this has been tabled for quite some time, so if you want a table to have 5 members, it's a very meaningful application to your client, that's fine by me. We're ready to proceed if you want as well.
Let's proceed, because my client is anxious to finalize this.
All right, fair enough. Okay, I will say that this was tabled last time to give us all an opportunity. It had been so long since we had the hearing, and planning board had tabled it a number of times before it finally took action. So we all had the opportunity to go back to our hearing, planning board hearing, and put ourselves in better position tonight to act on this. And me personally, having gone back and looked at our minutes and looked at the meetings, I readily acknowledge that parking there has been an issue over the years. I'm not aware of any terrible accidents or people getting hurt or anything along those lines, but on many occasions, excuse me, I have seen cars parked on both sides of the road and people walking in the road to get to the building. Having said that, and knowing everything the applicant has gone through, both with the planning board and several other agencies, involved agencies in this application, I am not convinced that the applicant has demonstrated that and met the burden of proof to show that granting this application would bring a pre-existing non-conforming use more into conformity. And specifically what I mean by that is if this gets approved, there will be more parking, no doubt. So the parking problem will be solved. But the expense of that improvement is that we are taking a lot of nature away, a big part of the hill. And again, I understand other entities have been made aware of that and have approved that. But I'm not, I think it's too much of a price to pay to create new parking spots or additional parking spots. So my motion would be a motion to deny based on failure to meet the burden of proof.
So what you're saying is there's too much change in the landscape, the natural landscaping, and that doesn't bring it in further compliance because of that.
A fair assessment of my position, yes.
Okay. Well, I understand where you're coming from, and I think I'm going to second that. If that's a motion. Did you make the motion?
Yes, Christie, my motion is a motion to deny for the reasons I've stated. You've seconded that. Any further discussion?
I look at it as the opposite way. I mean, I think that the fact that they've gone through the number of steps they have with the planning board, and there's no issue from that aspect of, environmental concerns, things like that, that they have met that burden, that there's not an issue of the, environmental type aspects from that. So I don't, I'm not necessarily opposed to this because it is a need.
I actually agree with Andres, and I struggle with the environment too. I really do, but they have done their due diligence. They've gone through every step, and I am very sensitive to the need that something has to change, and I am worried about safety with 2 aisles of cars. So I'm voting with Andres.
Okay.
You
don't have to say. I mean, you've already spoken what I'm looking at you.
No, but I think, I think it's a close issue. I actually can definitely see what the 2 of you are saying, and I can also see what you're saying, which was basically my gut feeling right from day one. But given that, I mean, the planning board has gone through a lot of steps to try to to control as much as possible the potential problems with the environment, so.
All right, so let's call the question, and I've made a motion to deny, Mike has seconded. All those in favor of that motion, aye.
I'll say aye.
Okay, opposed to that motion?
Opposed.
Post.
Okay.
So we're,
We are at a 2-2, which is in effect, a denial.
It's a denial. Denial.
Well, it's not approved.
It's not approved, the motion to deny has not been approved, but it's a 2-2 vote.
So it doesn't pass.
Yeah, okay. All right, we can go then to the second tabled application, the Winterset Drive.
yes, my motion would be to approve this with a couple conditions. One, I still think we need to get a writing
Well,
from...
hold on, is anyone from Delta Sonic here? No, okay. That's unfortunate, but okay.
I think we need to get something in writing more than an email from Delta Sonic with regard to confirming their obligation to maintain the fence that are not on this property, the other.
This is just seeker, I don't know, have we done seeker on this?
No.
You never did?
No, we did.
That's what I
Did we,
thought.
I think we've been trying to just, I just want to make sure that somehow it's noted that we did do it before we vote on it.
We did.
Okay, thank you.
You did it in the initial.
Sorry.
So that would be a condition, that we get something from Delta Sonic agreeing to maintain the fence for the remaining property owners along that line. And the other thing I would propose is to have this as a condition, to have the resolution recorded in the county clerk's office, to put any prospective buyers on notice that in fact they are responsible as the owner of the property for maintaining the fence that's on this particular parcel.
Okay.
The other question I had in making my motion is how exactly do we document what we're talking about? We have a map that Andy Sevegas put measurements on that he took. There's also a description of it in his email, but you know, there's a graduation on both ends from 10 feet to 8 feet. I don't know how we actually
You should
describe
actually
it.
attach the map
Can we?
as an Exhibit A, the resolution, take photographs of the area in question, Exhibit B, keep that for all time as part of the process.
Okay. Okay. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're in favor of the variance,
Yeah.
and you want these formalities to be clear.
Condition.
Conditions,
of
okay.
the approval.
And you're nodding.
I'll second it, yeah.
I'm in favor of that.
So I just want to make clear what we're talking about. You're familiar with it because it's your home and your...
Sure am.
You have agreed to assume the responsibility to maintain this fence if we grant the variance to allow you to put a 10-foot fence in certain areas. You made that clear before. You still agree to do that?
Definitely.
So what we are trying to do is a couple of things. Number one, make sure that your agreement is in writing, no offense, but we would ask that of everyone, in writing and recorded in the clerk's office so that any person who is thinking of buying your property is at least on notice that they would inherit that obligation from you to maintain the fence. That's one. The second thing that we would like is to get Delta Sonic to reaffirm its obligation, which it currently has, to maintain the other portions of the fence that are on other citizens' properties. And we have an email from them.
Yeah, and that was quite clear as far as I was concerned.
But it's an
It
email.
only concerned my property.
Sure, but we have to look out for the other neighbors who are the beneficiary of action of this board in the town back when Delta Sonic got the approval. I think the board is looking favorably on your application. That's not the issue. The issue is how do we grant your application, how do we best protect future owners of your property, number one, and the current neighbors that are out there. The best way to do that is put everything in writing and have them recorded in the clerk's
Plus,
office.
I recall the only thing we really have in writing signed is a letter that says that this would forego their obligation.
And it wasn't clear what
Right,
that
right,
meant.
what that meant.
So, I'm comfortable moving forward with these and voting on this with these conditions.
I also want to make clear, it's understood that you are also going to be putting boards on the lower portion
Oh, yeah,
of what you've raised, so this
Yeah.
is going to be a solid board fence.
exactly,
Something of similar material, thickness, color,
exactly. I'm gonna stain it to match.
so I want to make that as a condition. So that's my motion.
Okay, did we get a second on that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the variance request with the conditions that we've outlined, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for your patience.
My question is, who goes after these written statements now? Do you fellas?
Well, there's no reason why you can't, and we can simultaneously. Absolutely, and if we don't hear from Delta Sonic, because all we're asking Delta Sonic to do is formalize what they've already said they will do.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, who do I communicate with?
I thought there was a gentleman you'd been talking with previously about this.
Jim Costello?
Oh, I mean from Delta Sonic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the person I would call if I were you.
And Andy and I will talk to him.
Yeah, and if there's an issue, let us know, but I don't anticipate there being any issue.
So you want me to call Delta Sonic?
You do what you want, but if I were you, I would. I'd call Delta Sonic, although I think some letter said that there's only one person you should talk to, I forget, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a condition of the approval, so if you're not able to obtain it, or we can't obtain it, you don't have an approval.
Right.
So. it would
And
be-
then we'll put it back on the docket and get Delta Sonic in here to say, why aren't you living up to what you said you would do? Because I think it's clear, but it's
So
not.
what you're saying, it's my responsibility to contact Delta Sonic, not any of you fellas?
Well, they won't in any case.
No.
Staff would do.
Staff will, and I'm suggesting that you do as well, because it's in your best interest to do so.
As quickly as you can.
And obviously, I shouldn't do it via email because that's not a legal
No,
situation.
you can contact them by email, but you've got to have a formal documentation that has to be recordable in the county clerk's office in order to make this work.
Yep.
And I suspect they'll do it. They'll work.
Jim, I'll give you a call and you can straighten me out.
It's okay.
You got an approval.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that's all right.
All right, so let's see.
We are a little bit
McDonald's.
behind, Mr. Chairman.
We what?
Quite a bit behind.
But we're doing God's work, Jim. Number 3.
Thank you.
I didn't know Dave Renner was gone.
Okay, so this is the McDonald's application.
Thank everybody for your patience. We appreciate it. Right.
I think they're here.
We doing the third table? The third table?
Yes. Are they here?
They are here.
Yeah.
Yeah. There have been some changes from the planning board, so I think he should update us. And then, right?
Sure,
Okay. We're okay with this going right now?
absolutely.
Okay.
We can pass this around, but this is the final approved rendering from the planning board, which is what I had presented at the last meeting. So it was approved as, not as submitted originally, but as presented at the last meeting.
The last meeting of this board?
The last planning board meeting.
Okay.
Which was really the change, was we added this, we added the brand wall, the tile arcade brand wall on the Penfield Road side of the building. So there was two things that was asked of why this was tabled, which one was this board wanted to know what the planning board was going to approve, so you now have that in front of you. Second thing that was asked was essentially do some due diligence and comparison of other commercial properties in the town of Penfield. So I spent a morning doing a tour of, I'll say, 3 main areas, which was Empire Boulevard, Panorama Trail, and 250 and 441. I don't know if you want me to read these all off, but there was more businesses that had at least 2 signs than there was businesses that had just 1 sign. There was a couple, well, I shouldn't say a couple. I found,
Can you, why don't you touch base on the ones briefly in the area of 250 and 441?
okay,
And then, would you mind if we make that document part of the record?
that's fine. Yeah, there's some good information on here. This is kind of just my bullet points, but
That's okay.
in the area of 250 and 441, and I'm stretching this a little bit, but you know, YMCA had 2 building signs. Speedway, I was counting the one on the canopy. Rite Aid had 2 building signs. Taco Bell had 2 building signs. Panera, Chase Bank actually has 3 building signs. Cornerstone, Zoom Tan, and AAA all had at least 2 building signs. Empire Boulevard, there was McGregor's, Dollar Tree, which Dollar Tree is substantial size wording compared to what we're proposing here. I just point that out for some information later. In the Panorama Trail area, Walgreens, Bill Gray's, Delta Sonic, Burger King, M&T Bank, Planet Fitness.
Oh, you did your homework.
Yeah.
Like I said, you would almost have a hard time finding, some of the smaller, maybe more residential type businesses you would find with 1 sign, but a lot of them had multiple signs.
So to your point, just going back to the 250, 441, because I also drove around myself
Okay.
as well and saw Rite Aid, et cetera, but they also don't have a monument sign in front. That was the trade-off for a lot of these. Taco Bell, Rite Aid, they...
Understood, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Because I actually pointed out, there was a couple sites, Burger King was one that had multiple building signs with a freestanding sign. Chili's, which was recently done, has 2 building signs and has a freestanding sign. So there was some of those that had, also had freestanding signs. Because I knew you were gonna, or not you, I knew this board was gonna suggest that, so I
You
did.
point at her.
I did, I'm sorry.
I'm the sign lady today. I have all the sign applications.
So I was noting which ones had, had 2 signs with no freestanding sign, and a lot of them didn't have freestanding signs. I'm not being very frank about that. So from McDonald's standpoint, and I think I mentioned this last time, if you look at the elevation, we added an additional brand wall on the Penfield Road side because the planning board wanted to dress up that side of the building. McDonald's likes, it's sort of their new, it used to be the red mansard roof with the white light beams. Now this brand wall with the golden arch is kind of their new identification, if you will. They're doing that on all these these remodel projects. And I also stated last time that if they had a preference, their preference is they prefer that over the wordmark sign, wordmark being the McDonald's lettering. But we think this looks appropriate to have the McDonald's lettering on this side just because of this. This building's 93 feet long. You take it off, it just kind of, we think, completes the elevation. But just a comment on the signage.
Don't you have the same length on the non-drive-through side?
Yes. It's 93 by 44.
And that doesn't have a McDonald's sign, so looks
No, but it's also not on the street
Yeah, it's
side.
Penfield Road.
So I just want to note, I know the zoning requirement is we're permitted 1 sign. We're here asking for 4 signs. But just the relatively small scale of these signs, by code, and I'll admit that I don't understand necessarily how to interpret the code, but it talks about, the code talks about you're allowed 1 sign, but you're allowed 2 square feet for each linear foot of building adjacent to the space being used for business purposes. I don't know if that means all 4 sides or a frontage, but if we just took just the Penfield Road side at 93 feet, we're looking at a sign that could be 180 some square feet. We're proposing 74 total with 4 signs. And if you start breaking that down as far as the area of those signs in relation to the wall, it's less than 3% on each wall. It's less than 3%. So it's pretty small size of signs. And I would just note, I think I noted last time, These aren't the signs that are on the building today or the old signs that weren't as attractive or clean looking. This is a picture of a rebuild that was done in Wellsville, New York, and it's probably hard to see, but I just wanted to maybe pass it around, and just these signs are much cleaner looking, much simpler looking. They're not plasticky looking, if you will. Just a better quality sign. So
Are you also maintaining a monument sign plus these four?
that's correct.
Freestanding?
Yeah, we're not proposing any changes to
So
the...
5 total.
And then you also
signage.
have the directory sign a little bit east of, on 441 with the M on it.
And the
So-
monument has 2
Yeah,
signs.
the monument.
That's a directional sign, though.
It is?
Yeah, that'd be directional.
Okay. Well, I gotta tell you, like, I'm really struggling with this in terms of, we denied Verizon. And they were, they're just as visible, and we denied it, and we actually denied Aldi's too. And I feel like there's nothing that you've said that makes it so different for me to justify additional signs. How is everybody feeling?
Well, I guess my only comment is that, okay, just looking across the street at Rite Aid, I mean, they have 2 fronts, we have 2 fronts, they have 2 signs.
And no monument sign.
Understood.
Would you be
But
willing to get rid of the monument sign?
No.
Okay.
Just make your motion, Marie.
Well, then I'm going to make a motion to deny
I'll second.
the request for additional signage.
All right, so we have a motion to deny the application in its entirety, and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One opposed. Okay, me.
You opposed?
I did oppose it. All right. Okay, so I think that's all the tabled matters.
Yes.
We'll take care of the minutes when we finish. And number 1 is off, right? Yeah, that's right. It is off? Yeah.
Would you open it back there?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And first of all, excuse me, I'm battling a cold here, so I'll do my best to keep my voice up. But welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Penfield Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight's meeting is going to take place in 2 parts. The first part is the public hearings, which are about to commence. And then we'll take a brief recess, and we will reconvene in the back of the room to deliberate on tonight's applications. The public hearing will ask the applicant to come up and give us name and address, and then explain to the board members why the relief being requested should be granted. Once the applicant is done with the presentation, board members will likely have some questions, and then we'll ask anyone in the audience that cares to speak about the application to come up and do the same thing. Give us name and address, and then speak to the board about the application. After the public hearings are adjourned, as I said, we'll take a recess and we'll reconvene in the back of the room. Members of the public are welcome at both the public hearings and the deliberations, although generally speaking, deliberations are times reserved for conversations amongst board members with staff, although sometimes we do ask further questions of the applicant. Every month I like to point out that we think that the town does a very good job of alerting citizens that certain applications are going to be heard and informing citizens of their right to come in and speak about the application. The town does that by making applicants put signs up in front of the property. The town sends postcards to neighbors if you live within a certain distance, post the agenda on the website, and again, all of this is done to make sure you all have an opportunity to come in and speak to this board. We appreciate it. We think it makes our job easier to hear from our fellow Penfield citizens. And with that, I also want to thank everybody for your patience. We're starting a half an hour later than usual, but as hopefully you were able to ascertain, we had some tabled matters that we had to take care of, and we like to treat every application seriously, and and every citizen fairly. So with that being said, I'd ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you very much. Andy?
Application number 2 here. Eric Graff, 90 Coventry Road, Pittsford, New York, 14534. Requests a conditional use permit under Chapter 250-5.6-C1E of the Code and area variances from Chapter 250-5.6-D3, Chapter 250-13.10-A3, and Chapter 250-13.10-A6 of the Code to allow a daycare center with less front setback, greater building area, and less buffer than permitted at 1280 Creek Street. The property is owned by Rect Incorporated and Zone Limited Business, SBL number 093.15-1-2.115. This is application number 18Z-0007.
Thank you.
Good evening. Eric Schaff, Marathon Engineering, with offices at 39 Cascade Drive in Rochester, New York. With me tonight, Eric Graff, the applicant, as well as Alan Rossignol, architect, member of principal and owner, rather, of Edge Architecture. Board members, thank you for agreeing to reconsider our request for variances. We've been here before. I will keep my presentation short and sweet, especially with the late start, but we will be glad to answer any questions. We have made some changes to the plan. That previous plan, one that was not approved by this board, we now need 3 variances instead of 4, and 2 of the variance requests are for lesser relief. Should this board grant approval, our next step is to go back to the planning board for site plan modification approval. We've been told that should only be a formality, as that board has already approved the project, and these changes are considered minimal. Quick recap of the project. We're located on a 2.5-acre vacant parcel, which is Zone ZB Limited Business, with an address of 1280 Creek Street. Now that is between Sovereign Drive to the north and Penweb Drive to the south. On the north side of Sovereign Drive is a block building, colloquially known as the Penweb Building, which houses a number of small businesses. On the south side of Penweb is a large building, CDS Monarch. It houses an adult daycare facility. We are proposing to construct and operate a 10,100 square foot child daycare building with associated parking on this parcel. The building size has been reduced. The building has been shifted further away from Penweb Park, and parking spaces have been added to the north side of the building, which eliminated the need for that variance. We are here this evening requesting approval of 3 variances. Due to the configuration of the lot, while a buffer of greater than 100 feet exists to residential uses down here, this property is zoned residential, and our variance request is to allow less than a 100-foot buffer from an adjacent residential property, because it's to that property line. Penweb is 60 feet wide, and that property, again, contains an adult daycare facility. It's not a residential. Similarly, the front setback from Penweb of 40 feet is less than the 80 feet required, and that's simply due to the configuration of the lot. The third variance is the building size. 10,100 square foot is larger than the 8,000 square feet allowed by code. I'd like to point out a few items. The additional building size allows the applicant to provide a high-quality daycare experience. Reducing the building size would have a negative impact on the operation. Town code specifies a maximum number of children as well as a maximum number of square feet in the building, which limits space per child to 59.3 square feet per child. We are proposing, in essence, a 74.8 square foot allowance per child, allowing us to deliver a superior and more enriching environment for each child. Also, we'd like to point out, and I mentioned down here, immediately to the south is a 19,000 plus or minus square foot adult daycare building. The building to the north is 10,500 square feet, each of which is larger than what we're proposing. This building size is certainly consistent with the character of the neighborhood. Again, I mentioned the down code limits the operation to 135 children. This increase in building size will not affect the number of children served. We are not asking for relief from that. Therefore, we're not viewing this as substantial, other than the result will be a substantially improved environment and experience for the children. We respectfully ask that you grant these requested variances. In addition, as was mentioned by Andy, we request the board grant us a conditional use permit allowing the daycare to operate. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Anything? No. I would note that I voted against this previously because I was concerned about the number of variances and their impact, let's say. But I commend you and your client for going back to the drawing board, if you will, and presenting us with, I think, an improved project and a better application.
Thank you.
That's not a question, that's a comment.
No, and I acknowledge and appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone in the audience care to speak about this application? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Carmine Constantino, Cricket Wireless, 1766 Empire Boulevard, Webster, New York, 14580. Requests a special permit under Chapter 250-10.3-A and Chapter 250-10.13-C of the Code to allow more than one building-mounted sign at 1766 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by Ranchick Corporation and Zone General Business. SBL number 093.15-1-54. This is application number 18Z0008.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. A little nervous following up after that guy. I mean, I'd grant him his variances, that's for sure. My name's Carmine Costantino, 4252 Canoe Creek Lane, Liverpool, New York, and I'm here in regards to a current structure that had 2 signs already and apparently couldn't be grandfathered in. So I'm just looking to basically get that granted again.
So you feel that you need 2 signs because you're on the corner?
Yeah, basically anybody coming, I believe, eastbound can't really see the front of our space.
Okay. This said that each of these are 35 square feet, the signs?
Correct.
Okay. Maybe, Andy, you could tell me, what is the average size about with the other signs that are located on that building? Is this in the same size, roughly? It feels large. Some of those signs seem very...
The box signs that were already there actually match up with the same size of the signs that we're putting on the building.
Okay.
We're just going with channel lettering instead of the box signs.
And are these going to be lit?
Yes, LED lights.
LED lights. How bright are those?
Not very bright at all.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have, but I do have a question about the signs on that plaza. Do you have any sense of about how big they are?
I couldn't tell you
Okay.
how big they all are.
Okay.
It appears to me that the size of each individual sign would be comparable to other signs that are there.
Okay, so around 35, but they're not noticeably different?
Not, I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay. That's all the questions I
Do you
have.
know what the signs of the occupant before you, the size of those? You said there was 2 of them.
There was, yeah. There was 2 signs approximately the same size. Our channel lettering will actually cover the majority of the square footage that was there. There'll actually be some remaining that we'll have to paint over.
So they're a little smaller then?
Tiny bit smaller.
But the lettering's about the same? Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
the other ones were box signs. These are channel letters instead.
Okay, would you describe that for me, because I'm not sure I understand.
Well, a box sign would be, your basic metal framing with the plastic shield over the front of it. These are actually individual letters that go.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay, and just so folks know, we're talking about a building in Sunrise Plaza
Correct.
that's
On Empire.
sort of at one end and almost has like the
a bar.
corner almost points to Empire
That's
Boulevard.
correct.
You're asking for a sign on each side.
That's correct.
Facing one way and
Right,
facing
that way
another.
the traffic going westbound can see us as well as the
And this
traffic going
this
eastbound.
board had previously granted the same, basically,
Oh, yeah, it was a
application.
Verizon location, yeah.
Oh, I was wondering if you would say the word, but that's like the Pepsi guy saying Coke or the Coke guy saying
Cricket's actually
Pepsi.
AT&T, so yeah,
Oh,
it's,
okay.
direct competitor.
Anything else from the board?
You're willing to forego any freestanding signs then for the future?
There isn't actually a freestanding sign there.
But, so we won't have you coming back and?
That's correct.
So if we make that part of the condition, you're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
not my building to go after
Sure.
that type of variance, but it's okay with me.
So wait, let me just ask, so what if a directory sign was ever put up? Would that change anything? Okay.
It's a good question. Do you know if there's any intent to put up a directory
I
sign?
don't think he has any room, I don't think he has any room for it, to be honest.
I noticed there wasn't one
Yeah.
there. Okay. All right.
The big tenants.
Anybody in the audience care to speak about this application? All right, thank you. Have a safe trip back to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim?
Oh, pull your mic over, Andy.
Okay. Number 4, please, Andy.
1930 Empire Boulevard Holdings LLC, 1950 Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, Rochester, New York, 14623. Request an area variance from Chapter 250-5.7-D3 of the code to allow a building with less side setback than required at 1930 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by 1930 Empire Boulevard Holdings LLC and zoned general business, SBL number 093.02-1-19. This is application number 18Z-0011.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Paul Colucci with the DeMarco Group, here tonight on behalf of the applicant 1930 Empire Boulevard Holdings LLC. As Andy read, we are here tonight asking consideration of a side yard setback where 20 feet is required. We are proposing 17.7 feet, therein requiring a 2.3-foot relief of that side yard setback. This property, 1930 Empire Boulevard, was acquired by the DeMarco Group in 2015. You'll recall it was formerly the Beal Cafe. During the approvals of Baytown Plaza that dated back to the rezoning in 2012 and site plan approval 2014, there was consideration given in cross-access easements required for the frontage parcels. You'll recall that we have made a connection to what is now the Chili's, just a little bit north of this location. This parcel was strategically acquired so that we had access into the plaza in alignment with the internal drive aisles. The placement of the building that we're proposing, it's a 6,000 square foot building, is justified to the north of the property, and the requested variance is necessary such that the building is 120 feet by 50 feet in depth. We have a 7-foot integral sidewalk on the south side of the building, a 24-foot drive aisle, parking spaces, and a 0-foot pavement setback to the south, which is the Taco Bell property. On the north side of the building, we have a 12-foot service-related drive aisle on the back and a 0-foot pavement setback to the north. The alignment of the drive aisle is strategic, that it aligns with the internal site driveways, as I mentioned. The width of the building and the depth of the building are to support 2 tenants. A standard retail depth is typically about 60 feet. We've already compressed this building down to 50 feet in depth, and we feel that's the minimum that we can go to have viable tenant occupancy in these buildings. We do have a tenant for half of the building. It's Verizon Wireless. This application was before PRC. We met with PRC. We've addressed all of the engineering concerns. This application's been before Planning Board twice. I believe the Planning Board sent a letter to this board recommending granting of the requested area variance, and we're here respectfully requesting that. Be happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Just briefly to put in other words what you said, one of the reasons you're requesting this variance is so that you can construct a wide enough road which will lead from Empire Boulevard into the service road that will run throughout Baytown Plaza.
Correct. When the Beal Cafe was in place, it actually had, it was justified to the south and actually had a 15.9-foot setback to the south property line. So that building that was there had already less side yard than required by code. We demolished that building. We have an application into New York State DOT to relocate the driveway to the south of the property limits for two reasons. One, moving it further away from the existing signal that services the Wegmans Plaza, giving a little bit more queuing distance there. And two, the alignment into the Baytown Plaza.
Okay. And you're just requesting a 2.3-foot variance?
2.3 feet.
All right, any other questions from the board? No, anybody in the audience care to speak about this application? Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Number 5.
Madge Land Surveying, PC 4460 Culver Road, Rochester, New York, 14622. Requests area variances from Chapter 250-5.1-F1 of the code to allow 2 lots with less lot area and less lot width than required at 1872-1876 Blossom Road. The property is owned by Wonderland Properties, LLC, and zoned R-1-20, SBL number 123.10-2-2.2. This is application 18Z-0012.
Good evening. I'm actually Doug Magdy from Magdy Land Surveying. I represent Paul Gilfus from Wonderland Properties. He owns the property at this 1872 to 1876 Blossom Road. Currently, he has 3 rental properties there, and there are 3 houses, and he would like to change that to 3 lots and an additional lot. We're asking for a variance, area variance, or an area variance, number 1, and number 2, a width variance. The width variance is mandatory because the houses are existing. There's nothing we can do about it. There's no way we can get, in order to create the lots, there's no way we can get 100-foot lots into the area. So in order to create the 3 lots, the lots between the houses, we have to have so far. The area variance is because we want to be able to create a 4th lot. And being there's a driveway servicing these lots, we figured the natural boundary was the existing driveway. I mean, we could probably get the substantial area if we go north and try to get the area, but that would no way to get the 4th lot in there, and that's what the owner would like. I do have a map, and the reason the owner wants to do this is back in 2005. He has a planning board approval from 2005 that granted the establishment of the 4th lot. I've actually got a plan showing the planning board signature showing this. So he, in his mind, he goes, "Oh, this was no problem. Please do this." I'm actually taking over for another surveyor since retired, and so he would like to, this is what his thoughts were in order to do that. And that's why I'm before you today, because this is what his wishes were. And the other thing was that, most of the people, the existing residents, do not want to buy the land on the other side of the driveway. So our thought was, well, we can get it, have a 4th lot on the other side of the driveway. They would be able to take care of the rest of the land because there's 7 acres there. So, he wants to be able to have another house there and hopefully have a potential residence there. Let me surmise that he has no plans on developing this right now, but he wants to take care of the renters right now and wants to be able to create the 3 lots. So that's why we're here.
What were the other designs that were considered when laying out the lots for the parcels? I mean, were there any other design considerations that would have required maybe to not have an area variance?
No, because this was already approved back in 2005. So he came to me, can you he didn't do that back then. So he came down for me now and said, can you have these three, can you redo this, what was it, 12 years, 13 years later?
I guess I'm a little confused. If this was approved, why is it in front of us?
Times.
Just straight.
He didn't do anything within a year, probably.
Okay.
That's, I would assume, no?
What's that?
There must have been a time limit on that approval.
I'm sure there was a time limit, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's what I'm assuming too.
And this, and
So
sure,
I'm sure that's what it was.
And the design that was approved back in 2005 is the same one that you're presenting now?
Correct. I've actually got a photo of
Okay.
this. You want to see it?
No, I was just curious in terms of the layout, what other layouts could have been that might have required less of a variance, that might have, I mean, because, obviously making 4 lots or 3 lots brings it into more of a compliance, because each home then has its own lot, and that makes it easier to resell, because no one wants to probably buy a property that has 3 residents on it. Probably makes it a little difficult.
That's exactly right. So if you got the 3 residents and they don't want to buy the extra land, what do you do? So
Right. But I'm just wondering why the lots couldn't go farther to the west to then require less, or maybe no area variance, but just some setback variances. Because you get a flag lot that goes into the back and then encompasses the entire, let's say, 5 acres in back.
But then you got a driveway right through the middle of these people's properties.
Or if the flag lot was to the west, you could, have a driveway that went through that way possibly?
It would be land only. It wouldn't be access. I mean, the access would be that main driveway. So you'd have a flag lot, land only, that would have no substantiation for anything. See, it's probably possible. I didn't look into it at all.
Okay. That's the only questions I have then.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. I saw a memo from the Penfield Historical Board about 3 subdivisions. Did it comment on 4? See that?
I don't understand.
I think the historic board commented on that original 4-lot.
Oh, it was on the original 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
missed
believe they
that.
were waiting for the zoning board before they commented or approved.
And how do your neighbors feel about the project?
Daisy Flour Mill, we've talked to them. They don't have a problem with it. I believe the gentleman next door is not thrilled about having another resident. That was at the planning board meeting. He spoke and wasn't in favor of having another house there.
Thank you. I'm sorry for my confusion
That's on the
with
record,
that.
so that's why I'm stating it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And do you know if the planning board was in favor of 3 versus 4, if they had any opinion either way?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I don't know. But like I said, we're not, any 4th lot would have to go before approval anyway. So all this is an empty lot.
Well,
it's not.
We're still creating the lot for that potential to happen. Yeah.
He may never do anything. I have no idea, but that's true. Yes.
All set? Anything else from the board? Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? Okay, thank you very much.
Terrence Zappia, Pierpont Visual Graphics Incorporated, 15 Elser Terrace, Rochester, New York, 14611. Requests a special permit under Chapter 250-10.3-A and Chapter 250-10.12-D of the Code to allow a freestanding sign with less side setback than permitted at 1672 Empire Boulevard. The property is owned by Falone Family Associates LP and is zoned business non-retail, SBL number 093.19-1-45.11. This is application number 18Z-0009.
Good evening. I'm actually Scott Zappia. I'm representing U of R. I'm taking my brother's place. He had to go out of town. So they're looking for a freestanding sign. I don't know if you have copies already. I don't know what Terry gave you, but with a road kind of S's, they want to put the sign closer to the road, so the one setback will be closer to the one side, to the north side of the property. So instead of 50, it'd be 25 feet, but from the west side by Empire Boulevard, it'll be 20, then 25 from the the south side. So those 2 dimensions will be conjunction. They wanted to keep the sign within 20 square feet, so not to put a big sign up, but to be 50 feet off, they'd have to be near the parking lot, and you wouldn't be able to see the sign from the road because of the size. It's a non-illuminated sign.
Would there be any floodlights illuminating?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. So I just wanted, go ahead.
Just so they could see that this, the sign better for that location.
And thanks for coming, by the way. I know you're pinch hitting, and it's hard to do that, I know. So I guess I'm just wanting to be really sure. When I went out there and I spoke to the person in the office, they couldn't tell me exactly where the sign was. So what's there now, the temporary sign, is not where you want it to be.
I think there are stakes in the ground where we're going to put it.
But it would face.
There's no sign right now.
It wouldn't face toward the road. It would be double-sided.
It's double-sided, correct. So it's going to face north and south.
Okay. Is there any way that you could move it so that there would be less of a variance required? That's a pretty large variance.
Pushing it back, it's going to be like in front of those, you get a picture of it like this with the cars. It's like right like in front of the cars to get 50 feet. And they don't want it, if they go with a bigger sign, they would need a variance for the sign. 20 square feet's kind of a, what's allowed there without having a variance. So they wanted to kind of keep it not, overly, big. They want to keep it 20 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
Do you know if anything was done to check on whether putting the sign in that location would create any kind of sight distance issues or safety issues?
Just from our experience, it's only like 66 inches off the ground. It's only 5.5 feet up. It's not,
Well, let me ask it this way then. Based upon your experience, do you feel that there would be any sight distance issues or safety issues placing it in that location?
No, I don't. I think
All right, great. Any other questions from the board? No. Anyone in the audience care to speak about this? All right, thanks.
Hey, thank you.
Morelli Weingard, Ellison Heights Apartments, 1206 Penfield Road, Rochester, New York, 14625. Requests a special permit under Chapter 250-10.3-A and Chapter 250-10.2-C to allow greater real estate signage than permitted at 1200A Penfield Road. The property is owned by Ellison Heights Apartments LLC and is zoned multiple residence. SBL number 123.19-1-26.11. This is application number 18Z-0010.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So Ellison Heights Apartments is asking for a special permit for signs for proposed banners that will be installed on the southwest building facing Penfield Road between the months of March and August. The banners will assist in creating leads and help the property lease up the units rapidly. The sign or banners themselves will be 48 by 480 inches, and they will be approximately 240 feet from Penfield Road. At this time, due to construction, traffic does not think the property is even open yet, and actually, we are open, so that will greatly assist in bringing in more traffic.
Okay, you have a massive amount of building there and very elevated, at least from the Panorama Plaza side. Why do you need a sign or banner signs that's twice what's allowed and each one is 10 times, or total 10 times greater than allowed?
From my experience of being in the leasing office now, mostly all of my prospects that come in say they had no idea that we were even open. And I think that's greatly because of the fact that when you're on Penfield Road, the sign says construction entrance only. So that's why I think something that will really show we are now leasing, we are open, will help assist us with that.
Well, but if people can see that construction sign, why couldn't you put a sign that says leasing on that size in that location?
So we have a now leasing sign, and for some reason, it's still not attracting enough traffic. And
Where is that? Where is that now, Lisa?
it's on Penfield Road on construction entrance.
Okay. And it's, would you describe it for me?
It's a fence wrap.
Oh, okay, okay.
What was my other question? And this is going to go, this is on the corner of the building closest to the road?
This is on the,
I mean, you have a picture here.
not the lowest building, but the tallest, right at the top of the hill.
And it would cover, in essence, that whole area?
No, it will not exceed 50% of the face of the area.
Okay, hang on a second, please.
Do you mind if I ask a question? while
Sure,
you're-
go ahead, no.
So would you describe what you guys have been doing to date to market the property in addition to the sign that's already out there?
Well, we do a lot of internet marketing. We do a lot of mailing. Most of it is, I will say, online, and then what we can do physically on the property, which we know we have our limitations to that. And since Penfield Road entrance is closed, it is hard for people to know you have to take Old Penfield Road to get to the property, well, to the leasing office at least.
Okay.
But lots of internet advertising.
And in your experience in this day and age, what are the most common tools that people use to find apartments?
Drive-bys are huge, and I've been getting a lot of drive-bys, and internet advertising. And like I said previously, with our drive-by that we have going on, once they get to the leasing office, they say, oh, wow, I didn't even know you guys are open, so.
Okay. And, do you mind one more?
No, go ahead.
So you said that you proposed that the signs would be up between the months of March and August.
Yes,
For how many years?
1.
1 year.
Because we don't want to pay to have to put it back up, so it'll be just this March to August 2018.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Micah. Thank you.
This is the graphic that I was looking at. Is that relatively accurate proportionately to what you're going to do?
Yes.
Or what you want to do?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you come to that size? Just because that's what's there?
I believe this is something, I'm kind of here just for the management company, but this is something that they've used similarly in another property, at another property.
With the same size building?
Similar size.
Okay, so you can't answer the point that you may not need all of this?
This was directed to me by my regional manager, so I
So that's a yes.
This was her suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, following up on that, do you have any discretion to agree to something smaller than what you're asking? And if not, that's understandable. Then if you wanted to make a tabling motion to make sure you know what, if any, discretion you have, we don't want to put undue pressure on you.
Yeah, I would just have to discuss that with my regional manager.
Sure. That's certainly fair.
You said a lot of this, the signage was to direct people to the leasing office that you're leasing. How is the placement of this direct people to Old Penfield Road versus the construction entrance?
Well, it's not so much to direct them to Old Penfield, just so they know that we are at least open and we are leasing.
So that covers the now leasing sign, but you actually have your web address there too, so.
Yes, and where to find us as well.
What's the color of the signs?
That is still up to discussion. We are thinking possibly white with black writing or a yellow, which I prefer white.
On a white background with
So that will end up
Black-
being
Black
colored
on
that will
white.
actually.
black
yeah.
on white or,
Black
Or
or yellow.
black
Yeah.
on yellow.
okay. That's all I have.
Hey, Andy, would you do everybody in this room a favor and describe what would be allowable by code without any input from this board?
Yeah, the code allows a maximum of one, well, for this particular type of property, one real estate sign up to 32 square feet in area.
Okay, and for how long could that sign be posted?
Until, if it's a for lease sign, it would be until,
Full occupancy?
yes,
Okay, okay.
And the height restrictions on a sign?
8 feet.
Okay. And do you have any idea how tall this actually is, the top of the sign?
The sign,
Yeah.
480 inches by 48 inches.
But it's sitting up, it's not on the ground, it's on the building.
It's on,
so-
yeah, it's pinned to the building.
So how tall is it to the top of that sign as
The-
installed?
Building, I believe it's in my notes. I don't think I have it right in front of me. But the building itself should be, measurements should be in there, or on the survey map.
I think she did.
It's like 40 feet.
I'm having trouble finding it. All right, I can't find it.
Yeah, I don't have the direct.
Yeah, so that's 40 feet.
The height of the actual
4 feet.
sign or the height of the building?
The building, yeah.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's 4 stories.
I thought I wrote it down in there.
All right, that's okay. Okay.
Anything else from the board?
You asked.
Okay. Anyone in the audience would like to speak about this? Okay. You're going to have to come up and, why don't you just have a seat there in the front row? Do you mind, sir, if she goes first? I promise you'll have a chance. You didn't see him stand up behind you. Okay.
I'm wondering if we could have a description in feet instead of inches.
May we have your name and address,
Oh,
please?
Margaret Ann Milne. I live at 17 Hill Creek Road, which comes out just at the entrance to this property.
Okay.
And I've been very concerned about this huge size of it as it is. And to put a big sign on there just adds to my anger, really. But I wondered if you could tell me how many feet this,
If my math is right, it looks to be 12, no, not 12, 40 by 4.
40 feet?
high by 4 feet wide.
The sign
Each
itself.
one, Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
Okay.
40 by 4.
okay.
How wide is this room? Anybody know?
Width?
45 feet.
The room? How did you calculate that?
2 foot per tower.
Very good. Okay. Okay. Well, apparently not so retired. Okay,
engineer.
so you have your answer?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, sir.
I used to do something like this for a living. I'm absolutely flabbergasted that there's no visual presentation. We don't know what we're looking at other than a billboard 40 feet high.
We need your name and address.
I'm sorry,
That's
Charles
okay.
Lewis, 56 Waterview Circle.
Okay.
I'm sure that this building can be seen from a mile and a half away, and a little sign this big saying rental office would give me the information I needed to rent it there. I can't even, it's 5 stories high, probably the densest project in the whole town, and now they want a billboard to advertise it. We're just flabbergasted.
Looks like
And they
this.
don't show us what it looks like, what color, they don't know what color, or anything else. I happen to be on the board of Allen's Creek Valley. I'm presenting next week a new sign for us that is 4 by 5 in the same location that the 30-year-old sign has been for years. That's adequate to identify the property. We're all extremely concerned about why and how this was ever built to begin with. It's ridiculously dense on a tiny little site. If this were a Rondequoit, you wouldn't be allowed to build that close to the slope, and we fear that some of those buildings may end up with erosion down at the bottom of the slope. Anyway, I am not formally representing anybody, but we have 202 units, all of which are very, very opposed to this project and certainly opposed to the sign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. Whoever gets there first.
First, yeah. First. But you'd be better off sitting in the front so you have a shorter distance for the...
My name
for the
is
next
Gary
guy.
Platic. I live at 97 Penn Lane at the bottom of the hill. I'm a board member of Forest Hill Condominiums. And again, we are all very disturbed about the size of the project, the size of the banner that's going up, and also the entrance and the exit on Penfield Road is not being used by these construction people correctly. I go up the road, there are people coming down and going in the exit rather than going up from the bottom of the hill, which is supposed to be the entrance into the property, vice versa. Construction people are exiting coming on the downhill exit, cutting right across the road. Now, if this is happening already with the construction people, what's going to happen to these residents? What is going to be the stipulation that these people are going to abide by the entrance and exits that are supposedly used, they're not being used now by the people who are working there. So we have 99 units at the bottom of the hill, and we are all opposed also. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay. Andy, do you have enough info from this gentleman to be able to, if you so desire, to inquire into that issue about the traffic, the construction not using?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
address that.
If you want to follow up, feel free to look at his nameplate and you can give him a call.
Thank you, Andy.
There you go.
Hi, I'm another retired architect, sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Bud Knapp. I live in 90 Winding Creek Lane, and I too agree that the buildings appear to be extremely overbuilt, but that's too late for that. So what I'm thinking is that the place that they need the signage is at the entrance of the old Penfield Road on the top next to Gentles Market, and they need one down at the bottom if they need to direct people into the rental office, because otherwise they're going to be confused trying to come in and out of the construction entrance if they see a sign up on the side of the building that leads them into the construction entrance. So it doesn't make any sense to have a sign that's a small sandwich sign down by the entrances to Old Penfield Road would make a lot more sense to me if I were trying to rent the things, because you want to get them to not into the construction side, but you want to get them to the rental office. And I too agree that we have to live now with this, and I've seen people coming in and out of the construction entrance the wrong way continually, and that's going to only happen on a larger scale when everyone's living there. So it's not going to be a pretty sight. So accidents will be happening. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Roberta Bettino. I live on Sable Oaks Lane, which is the property, the private road on the side where the leasing office will be. So first off, I'm happy to hear that the signage is only Penfield Road. That was one of the, it wasn't clear. We just said there was going to be a new sign. My concern was there going to be a sign over on the leasing at the corner where Sable Oaks and Old Penfield Road, if the signage was going to be large there. But my understanding is that's not what this is about. It's just the big one. And as that gentleman was just talking, I was agreeing with him, because if you have a sign saying rental we wanted to understand what it was exactly going to say, because people need to be directed. And my understanding is they cannot go through that currently, because it is going to be construction for quite a few more months, that people would have to be directed. So my other curiosity was, what exactly was the sign going to say? I understand it was advertising rental, but it was sending people to a website, and when in fact what is going to happen is people will come over to the leasing office is where they should go, because that's when it's available and open. So right now there's a small leasing sign on the tent card that's appeared, and so we've seen that, and I assume that's all that additional signage that will be on our neighborhood, okay? So that was just my comments were about the traffic concerns too, and just understanding that this was only a Penfield Road sign, correct?
All right.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Good evening, I'm Peter Giopoulos, and I'm at 45 Sky Ridge Drive, which is directly across the street from the apartments that are currently being built. Our concern is that a commercial enterprise has stepped in. By the size of it, it identifies itself as being commercial. And the area is from the bridge up the hill, except for the farm stand, residential. And a large commercial sign would begin to erode what is a residential area. Temporary means until all units are rented. That could take years because as some are rented, they are also emptied. So let's establish it as a residential place, and let's try to keep the aesthetics within that framework of a residential area equals a residential sign. A tasteful one would be a big improvement. Thank you.
Okay. Come on up, sir.
My name is Bob Lewis. I live in Allen's Creek Valley also, 59 Waterview Circle. I have a little bit different take on this whole thing. One of the biggest problems that most communities have is they're always short of money. And I see a great money-making opportunity for the town of Penfield. If you don't say anything, leave it the way it is, put cameras placed strategically across there, you can take pictures of all the people who, and they already do it, who make the wrong U-turns coming up or down, and you can mail them tickets, and you'll solve your budget problems. I mean, it'll be rolling in dough. I'd like to consider that maybe that's the way to handle this thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience care to speak about this? Okay. Do you mind coming up again? I have a couple more questions, and maybe my fellow board members too. How long have you, meaning the company, been trying to lease there?
So I actually started with the company in October. So
Oh.
I'm fairly new, and I'm just managing the property. So I'm sure they've been trying to market the property for quite some time online and what they can do while construction is up. But since I have been actually in the leasing office in January is when the clubhouse opened up, that's when we really started to try and amp it up.
Okay. Well, you probably don't know the answer to this then, but I'm curious as to whether how you're doing compared to what your expectations were in terms of rentals.
Well, we could be doing better.
Well, everybody could be doing better.
We could be doing better.
But you must have had, and again, if you don't know, that's fine, but I assume you had some kind of projections for financing, other reasons. We want to be, we want to have X units rented by this time so that we have a business plan. And if you don't know, you don't know, but.
Yeah, and I don't have the exact details to that. I mean, I know my personal leasing goal for the month, but I don't have to that extent.
Okay, but you could understand why we asked the question. Yep. You're coming in asking for a large variance. I don't think anybody here wants to see empty buildings for forever, especially buildings of that size. As somebody said, they're there. Maybe the worst thing that could happen is they could just sit there vacant and crumble. On the other hand, we have an obligation to make sure that when we give permission for variances, we do so taking all factors into consideration, certainly including how things will look, safety concerns perhaps, and certainly concerns raised by neighbors and citizens. So I don't mean to offend you in any way, but I think there's some unanswered questions here.
Oh, absolutely.
And because of that, I will probably make a motion to table this to get those sorts of things. Because frankly, without the information that I was just asking, are you behind projections? Yeah, we're behind projections, and we're having trouble making ends meet. Well, that's a different than we're slightly behind, we're doing okay, but we're going to redouble our mailing efforts, or we're going to create a new website. That's the sort of thing I think we need to hear.
Okay.
On the other hand, keep in mind, please, and convey the message that this is a very large variance request. Even if you were to come in and say, we're behind where we want to be, this is a really large request. Okay?
Yeah, because that still doesn't deal with the issue as to whether this would improve significantly their ability to rent. So.
Yeah, and if you have any, the company has any experience from somewhere else, hey, we were able to put size.
They actually had these exact signs at Pinnacle North and Canandaigua, and it made a drastic change.
Well, that would be good to know, that sort of stuff. Okay, so I asked a few more questions, so I'll open it up again to the audience if anybody wants to ask any further questions.
You did say you're going to table this. Again, I'm Gary Plattick from 97 Penn Lane. You said you're going to table this. Will we be given notice again when you will be discussing this at another time?
Well, I said I'm going to make a motion to table.
Yes.
I'm only one very weak voice of four. But if it does get tabled, it'll be tabled the next month.
Very good. We just want to be still informed of what's going on.
Our March meeting date is?
15th.
March 15th.
We start at 6:30.
Well, we'd like to start at 6:30.
Dan, Christine has a comment.
Well, they'll be notified, but not by postcards. I'll have to look on the website for the agenda and stuff.
But we're telling you right now, God willing, our next meeting is March 15th in this room, 6:30.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Come on up.
Hi, thank you. I'm Carol Buzzard. I live at 638 Sable Oaks Lane, so again, the next-door neighbor. I just had one quick comment. You mentioned the rental, and the only thing I would comment on is, so I saw the sign go up as soon as it went up at the office, because I drive up there every day, and it actually sort of went up right in the middle of the worst part of January. So it's only been a few weeks where I could have even gotten access to that. So that was just a comment as far as how many people are managing to get in the driveway right now. And it's the same thing everybody else has said. These are large buildings. Everybody I know has come to me, oh, are they open yet? Oh, are they open yet? They're very obvious. So that was just to reiterate what other people were saying.
All right, thank you.
One other question, Dan.
The applicant?
Yes. How many units are actually available to rent at this point?
How many units are available at this point?
Yeah.
They don't open up until April 1st,
Okay,
the first
so-
building, so 28 units April 1st.
Okay. And then progressively, how fast are you going to add more?
So another 28 May, 28 June, 36 August, and then 60 November.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, so of the 28 ready April 1, how many of those are rented?
We have about, I want to say 4.
4 rented out of 28, okay. All right. Once again.
Dan, she got.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, so I was just going to suggest too, just to go along with what Dan was saying about, this is a large sign, could anything, you might want to go back to your corporate and talk about, what size they would be willing to accept, maybe.
And where to put it.
And where to put it. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So that would give you some fact-finding time.
Okay.
Thanks.
And by the way, this, besides, in addition to being broadcast live now to millions of viewers, this meeting will be available in a week or so. Usually. On
a few days.
On the town website. So
Okay, perfect. I will forward it along to them.
If they want to watch, you're welcome.
Okay, we all set, so to speak? Okay, then, thank you very much. I think that was the last application, so the public hearings will be adjourned, and we'll take a 5-minute break and reconvene in the back. Thank you very much. Although, still, there he comes. Don't rush anything. Okay, number 2. Excuse me. I think we have to do seeker on this, right?
I think always would, yeah.
Okay, so what do we have a pipe? Did we get something?
Planning board's lead agency, they classify it unlisted in the neg deck.
All right, so they've already, seeker's done.
Right.
Okay, very good. I'm going to make a motion to approve this application.
I'll second.
Second, I think with the adjustments that the applicant has made, it's a project that's more in conformity with the area, and the risks that I was concerned about before have been reduced to a sufficient level to my satisfaction. So it's good that there's a use going in that area. It's sort of long overdue. So my motion is to approve the variances requested. And I think we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Just one suggestion that I'm presuming the clarification on the findings will be that this is a substantial change from the prior application.
Fair enough. Yes. By the way, I know we had talked earlier, and in watching the planning board meetings, if we want roll call votes, did we say we wanted to do that?
Yeah, we can.
You want to start with the next one, or you want to wait till next month so you can practice a little bit? It's entirely up to
Unless it's
you.
unanimous, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Before you leave this application, you're referring to not just the variances, but the conditional use permit that was also requested?
I didn't specifically mention that. Thank you, Mr. Costello. Yes, my motion did include that.
Okay.
Everybody all right?
Second included?
Yeah, I seconded, yeah.
Okay. So good. Number 3, cricket. Left. 4 left. 5. Is he there? Maybe 2.
I thought it was 2.
All right, let's go to number 6 then.
Oh, 6.
Another U of R medical sign.
Mine. Okay, so we have to make a motion for seeker first. I'm going to make a motion, this is an unlisted action with no negative impact to the environment, needing no further action, neg deck.
I will second that.
Okay.
On the seeker, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this. I think that this sign will help with people finding this building. I don't think it's going to create any site issues. I don't think it's going to be a detriment to the environment or anything out of character. So I'm okay with this variance, even though it is large.
Size is that which is permitted by code, if I'm understanding the application correctly. So we're just talking about a distance.
The distance, right, right. The size is fine.
Okay.
I'll second it if someone didn't.
We have Marie's made a motion to approve, Andres second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Another unanimous one. By the way, if anybody ever wants a roll call vote, feel free to do that.
Okay.
And what order would?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for pitching in. What, if we were to do that, what order would we do it? Alphabetical?
Well, we have it here, not alphabetical. Maybe you're the chairman, then,
Oh, I go first?
yeah,
Oh, that's easy.
and then Mike, and Joe, and...
Not always. Okay. All right, number 7. You have a question?
I'm also here for 5, after number 7.
All right.
Go to number 5.
So 7 is yours, Mike.
I'm going to move that this is an unlisted action pursuant to seeker, with a negative declaration, no environmental impact.
Second.
A further discussion on seeker? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, now I move that we table this till next month for the reasons that you gave, to give them an opportunity to explore some of the answers that questions that we asked, and also to consider strongly some alternatives to what they're proposing as far as size and location.
And I think it would be great.
I'll second that.
Yeah, if we had information in writing.
Yeah.
We'll be much prepared.
Yeah.
Well, we get it. Okay.
Yeah. I'd say details of color, size, those kind of things are all important.
Yeah. And the information on the
Placement.
how you're doing so far. Yeah, placement too. Okay, so we have a motion to table for those reasons and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. And 5.
Let's see, this was a type 1, but I think planning board took lead agency and on the 8th of this month made a negative declaration for seeker. So, on to us. I'm going to make a motion to approve this, but I have hesitations. One, so you don't have to approve it with me, but I have hesitations on the fourth lot. I think there are still a lot of alternatives that could have been vetted out in terms of the size of the parcels. I think they could have come down farther to the west and had a narrow flag lot that let a driveway into the back to make that work. And it didn't sound like there's been any due diligence to make that happen besides the fact that in 2005, this plan was approved by the planning board. The zoning board has already granted variances also back, I think, in 2005 for these parcels as well. So we're just putting more variances on top of those parcels for what may or may not turn into another development. But seeing as there's not a whole lot of options for this parcel, I'm going to make a motion to approve, but there's reservation.
Maybe here before the motion. According to my notes and when I discussed the matter with Peter and I in preparation of the meeting, it was my understanding that seeker had not yet been approved by the planning board, and therefore at this point in time,
Table it.
This needs to be tabled until there is a seeker approval, because the planning board is then going to be lead agency.
It does say that, a lead agency with uncoordinated review.
Right. Yeah. So I just point that out before the board takes action.
I feel like they voted on seeker last. I watched the meeting. I feel like they voted on something for it.
We've got the email.
Well, they voted to table it, but I
I
can't
felt like they
remember
voted, I felt like they voted on seeker so we could move, so zoning board could move forward. That's at least.
And I can call Mr. Magny if that's acceptable.
Well, I don't think we want to act unless we know.
Yeah, because we can't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I understand that. If you allow me to call Doug. Doug does a lot of land surveying for our company. So he lives out. I said, go home, we've got a new puppy, just had an operation. So I said, go, and I would let him know.
We have this from planning.
Yeah, you have a negative declaration right here.
Indulge me for a moment.
What's a date?
The 8th.
I think this
The
is...
type 1.
If it's a type 1, I think it has to be a coordinated review, which...
Actually, no, let's pass it over to our legal one.
It does say type 1 in our memo.
Right. But I felt like, they had already put it out to notice. They've done the 30-day notice already.
Does the planning board take action on seeker?
No, I haven't seen this, so.
Okay, hold on, I'm gonna put you on speaker so you can repeat that. Well, I can do. Okay.
So negative declaration.
On February 8th?
Right, that was just on February 8th, a couple weeks ago, right?
Okay,
thanks.
All right.
Okay, any other questions for Doug while I have him?
It's in the, is there a resolution?
Okay, thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
I rewatched that to check that, and it was quick, but it felt like that's what they were doing, is so then zoning board could act on it. If not, they basically were almost waiting for us.
Yeah, according to the document that I've just been presented, on February 9, there was a notice sent to the Zoning Board of Appeals that a negative declaration had been issued on February 8.
Okay.
Pass it.
Does a coordinated review mean that the zoning board also has to
I'd have to pull the statute, I don't have it off the
The
top of my head.
coordinated review it addresses who's going to be lead agency and who's going to provide input back to the lead agency once it's been determined. The planning board assumed lead agency status, and it sent out notices to various boards, the zoning board being one. They did that internally through our offices, but there was no other agency other than the zoning board of appeals.
So what's
or
an
the-
uncoordinated review?
Uncoordinated would be if you had an application before the planning board for site plan approval. They would deal with site plan approval, and if there was a conditional use permit that was required, then they would issue the conditional use permit, and you would not have to deal with it as a coordinated review.
So no other involved or agencies or interested agencies?
It's a subdivision of property. There was nothing else that was happening. Normally the water authority or the health department or somebody like that might come along. Not in this case.
All right. But, so it's clear that planning board acted, declared a negative deck.
And dealt with secret.
So,
Double secret. But again, as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, I wasn't aware of it.
that's fine. So your reluctant motion to approve has been made. And did we get a second?
No.
All right, I will second. All right, any further comments?
No, I think my comments stand as, I'm, the fact that this was a site that's, someone's already looked at it at one point, it was years ago, obviously, but I'm still a little torn on if there's other alternatives that could have been handled, but
And we're bringing the site more into compliance.
we are, right.
Right.
But I think we could have gone even further by having less of an area variances required to make the parcels a little bit larger. It's at a cost of losing a part of a fourth parcel.
So were there variances issued back then?
On the
For rear
blueprints, it said 2005 zoning, or the first of 2005, I think. Yeah, January 2005 zoning board granted area variances to allow 2 single-family residents and 1 garage with less setback.
So what happened was all that property where those houses were situated was also on the same land that the Daisy Flour Mill was situated. And they split the Daisy Flour Mill off from those properties for mortgage purposes and some other things. They had to grant some variances because they now have created more substandard lots. So now what they're doing is they're trying to split the lots off individually versus just having that one part.
So they needed a variance to have multiple houses on that, what was left?
That's right.
Okay, so this is a different set of variances, that's all I was getting at.
And I guess I'd also make a note that if this does pass, we'd want to say that they comply with historic preservation requirements too for certificate of compliances for future modifications.
Okay, so we have that motion to approve with conditions, and I have seconded it. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous as well. So, let's see, where are we? 1 was withdrawn, 2 was approved. Cricket, number 3.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion for seeker that this is an unlisted action, a neg deck requiring no further review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
The owner's, Carmen's not here, right? So I had a question that occurred to me later, which is that these signs are bigger than what is there, that what was there. They were 20 and 24 square feet. And I'm just concerned that these 35 square foot signs are noticeably and much larger than the other signs that are at the plaza. And I want it to fit in, and I don't know how to state that.
I feel like he said that they fit within the footprint of the old boxes that were out there.
He definitely said that.
He did say that.
He did?
Yeah, he said they would fit inside there, but they were doing channel letters instead of a big box.
One whole.
Yeah.
Okay, I see the difference now.
Part of the reason it's a bigger area is because we draw a rectangle around the
Yeah.
total limits of
And it's
the-
not a box, they're the letters.
So
Okay,
if the letter
great,
sticks
okay.
up higher, you draw the box all the way
All
up
right,
and down.
so I'm going to make a motion to approve. There is no directory sign nor a freestanding sign. And this was granted before, so there is past precedent set. I don't think it would detract from being and I can be okay with granting this variance.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion to approve and a second.
Could you put add a condition, no freestanding signs?
I can add the condition that there are no freestanding signs, and if a freestanding sign comes up, then it needs to come back here.
Go ahead, Costa.
In addition to that, I'm glad you brought that up. They have put up feather flags on a consistent basis, I think.
You already talked to them about that.
Well, it should be a condition of approval.
No
They get
more.
permits to do it, we're not gonna do it.
All right, and another condition then is there are no additional signs, including feather signs,
Without
Well,
permit.
they have the right to come in and apply.
But they'd have to have a
on
permit.
special permit.
without a special
But they
permit.
need to get that permit.
Okay, so no additional signage without coming for a special permit.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Item number 4 is the new building there. Very small variance done to accommodate another connection from Empire.
Nothing unlisted there.
That is true. Unlisted action with a negative deck. That's my motion.
I'll second.
And we have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. On the merits, I'd make a motion to approve the variance. It's a small variance, and it's got a minimal, if any, impact on its neighboring properties, and it's a good idea to connect to that service road.
I'll second that as well.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I want you guys to know, I think I've already told Mike and I told Kaz, they are working on a sign package.
Right, which was 6 signs.
What do you mean?
For this, it was like 6 signs?
Or you mean for the whole plaza?
No, they're
The
working
whole
on.
plaza, the whole works for directory signs, the whole, remember we talked about, because they keep coming back.
Thank you. Thank
It was
you.
not clear.
Okay.
Yeah, for the entire plaza.
Okay.
As we've asked you to several times, so we may be seeing that soon, but I thought you guys should know that they are working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did 5,
That's all.
we
it?
did 6, and we did 7. We need to do the minutes. And, yeah, okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the January 4th, 2018 minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
Very good. Okay, well, hey, 10 to 9, so given the start that we had, a lot of tough issues tonight, but we did a good job, I think, resolving them. So we will stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for allowing me to pitch
Thanks,
in.
Lou.
My pleasure.